Welcome to episode 11 of the podcast. Today, I have the great opportunity to be sitting down with my sister-in-law, Sarah Atkinson. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, hopefully this runs smoothly. Hopefully our internet keeps up. So Sarah, I just wanted to get a little bit of background for those of you for the people that are listening and that might not know who you are. Give us a bit of background on who you are.
Okay. So my name's Sarah. I own a small business called Lincoln & Co. Designs that I started about 6 years ago now. After about the same time that my son Lincoln was born, or about a year after my son Lincoln was born. As a just a means of giving me something to do while I was at home with him all day, and also just for some extra income while my husband was and currently still is finishing up school.
Great. I think that's great. So you kind of mentioned it there, but you own and run a sewing business, I guess you could call it to some extent, where you make custom and things by hand. I guess also using a sewing machine. How did you get into sewing specifically, and then how did you get into making this into a business where you can earn money on the side?
Yeah. So originally, I actually my business has kind of evolved over time a little bit. I got into sewing originally back in college. Honestly, I took a sewing class at BYU and I really liked it. And I guess going back even further, the reason I started taking it was because when I was younger, like 16, 15, I had it set in my mind that I was going to be a fashion designer someday. And so I just really liked the idea of being able to make clothing and I don't know, dress well. And so then I ended up deciding that if I wanted to be a fashion designer, I better know how to make clothing. So I decided to take sewing at BYU just for fun. At that point, I wasn't planning on becoming a fashion designer, but I still wanted to be able to learn how to make my own clothing. So I just thought it would be a fun thing to do. So I took that class, and then I actually started taking the second class at BYU. And then I got pregnant with my son Lincoln, and I could not handle waking up early. So I stopped taking the class. But but it's just something that I kept doing. And with my business, I actually started out doing all hand sewing because I wasn't super confident with a sewing machine. I had one, but it just sat in my closet for 4 years before I finally pulled it back out. And so I started with hand sewing, making little baby items like rattles, and I think there were some, oh, what are they called? Oh, baby mobiles too. Just to hang above cribs and decoration and stuff. Um, and just really things that I thought would be useful for when I had my own baby, or for my own baby. I figured I'd start making them for other people, and then gradually over time, it's kind of transformed into more of clothing, casual clothing, obviously, and then other like sewn things. And at this point, most of my sewing's on a machine. I actually hate hand sewing, so that's part of the reason I transitioned out of that.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite the progression from a childhood dream of wanting to be a fashion designer to then taking a class, not really having the intention to be a fashion designer anymore, but then still being able to exercise that creative outlet in a way that feels genuine to who you are in that stage of your life. Um, and you might have mentioned this when you were kind of introducing yourself, but was this, I guess, business made out of necessity? Like you felt like some extra income would be nice and it kind of needed, or was it just kind of purely out of a joy and love for what you were doing? And then I guess the follow up question as well is, how did that, I guess, change your approach to what you were doing?
Yeah, so I think originally it was definitely a little bit more out of necessity, partially because we needed the extra income. Um, yeah, I think Nick, my husband, was working like a student job and maybe getting like $12 an hour at the time, so not very much. Um, and yeah, and I was at home with Lincoln, and I had just graduated and kind of wanted to have a job, but also didn't really feel like I had the time or the money for Lincoln to go like to go to daycare or be babysat so I could have a job. Well, my husband was still in school, so it was kind of a little bit of both. But uh, honestly, the biggest motivation was I just didn't want to feel like I was being stagnant at home. Not that taking care of a child isn't plenty of work, but I just wanted something that was specifically for me that made me feel like I was still like doing something besides just like taking care of a child all day long.
That's great. I think I think it's a special place to be in where you are able to provide something, but also still be present at home and be there for your child. And then I think that's something that a lot of people might be able to resonate with. I mean, I'm not a parent and I am not a mother, obviously, because I'm a man and I'm not a parent. But I think a lot of people could probably resonate with that same sentiment of feeling the need that you don't want to be stagnant, but still be able to do something to provide value for your family, and then also provide meaning for your life, and being able to exercising that creative outlet. I think that's amazing. Moving now towards when you kind of had the business started and you started it on Etsy, what was that first like organic sale where like someone you didn't know ordered something from you, and what was that kind of feeling like as when that happened?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact moment, but I definitely do remember like feeling like shocked that somebody like found me without like being somebody I already knew, because I definitely like at the beginning like all of my orders were coming from like my friends or the parents of my friends or maybe like an aunt or something like that. But when I got like my first sale directly from Etsy, I was like, wow, this is awesome. But also I was terrified because I'm like, okay, if it's somebody I know, then they'll go easy on me if like something doesn't go exactly the way that it's supposed to, or like the item I make like breaks eventually. But there was definitely more pressure like having like an actual customer being willing to like take a risk and buy something from me.
Before we get back to the show, I got to tell you about something that has become one of my daily go-tos. It is this cactus hat that I'm wearing on my head right now from Find the Good. Find the Good has very high quality products with a beautiful message to find the good in the world, and I have absolutely loved their products. And that's why I wanted to share with you a promo code that I have from them. It is Jacob White 10. You can head over to findthegoodbrand.com and use promo code Jacob White 10 at checkout to get 10% off of your next purchase there. That is Jacob White 10 at checkout. And let's get right back to the show.
Um, and like I felt the need to like make everything look super presentable and like nicely packed and I don't know, just like high quality. So I definitely probably slowed down and spent a lot more time on that order than I had previous orders from like people I knew. But I don't know, it was exciting, and I don't know, it's just like that little like you get like that little high, and then you're like, just want to keep like selling and like finding people who are interested in my product.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing, and I can definitely resonate with that myself. Doing this podcast has been something that I'm like, I don't know if anyone would want to even come and talk to me, like, and so it's kind of refreshing when you and also kind of induces a lot of stress when you're like, oh shoot, like this person actually wants to sit down and talk to me, and it's not just like my friend who I've known all my life, like this is a complete stranger. Um, and so I think I can resonate with that, and I'm sure that a lot of people can resonate with that feeling. As far as like something that happened on early on, was there like a mistake or decision that you made that kind of changed how you operate now? Like a decision that you maybe made when you were early on that changed the way you approach your shop now?
Hmm. Now that's a good question. I feel like there's not never been like any like huge mistakes that I've necessarily made, but maybe just like little ones along the way. Um, and I don't even know if they're necessarily mistakes. I think they're just ways that I've noticed that I can like change or grow a little bit. Like for example, I have um I mean, like, I started off using Etsy, and Etsy's definitely been great for helping me find, like, organic customers, um, but also I've found that it's not as effective as, like, searching for, like, customers more locally, um, and so, I don't know, with time, I've gradually been, like, shifting a little bit more to, like, finding my own customers instead of through, like, Etsy system, just because Etsy does charge, like, a bunch of fees, and they charge like listing fees, and they charge like they take a certain percentage off your order, and then they charge like shipping fees. And so there's just like a lot uh, um that comes from that, or like a lot of money that I end up losing out on because I'm using their system. And then I also actually, since I have kind of transitioned what kind of stuff I sell, I find that a lot of like my older stuff that I don't really like making anymore tends to sell better on Etsy, but it's not necessarily the stuff I want to focus on. So then I'm like, if since I still do have my Etsy shop open, I end up with orders for things that I don't really want to spend my time on. Whereas like since I've started going to like more local markets and like um connecting to people locally through like Instagram and stuff, that I found customers who are actually interested in like the things that I currently am working on and the things that I'm more making, if that makes sense. Um, and then I guess another change is just I know at the beginning I was really hesitant to price my products at a amount that made them worthwhile for me to make and sell, because I was worried that people wouldn't want to buy them since they are like one of a kind of items, or nearly one of a kind, and I have to make every single thing by hand. Um, so they take a lot of time, and so then they end up costing a lot of money they because I need to pay myself for my time. But I'd find myself kind of lowering their value because I was just worried, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford my own products. So then I was worried nobody else would want to buy them if they're that like high or priced what their actual value was, if that makes sense. Um, but it's actually been interesting because since I've transitioned out from using Etsy less and more to like selling like locally through other methods, um, I've actually like met people who will pay the full price for my item and like are like actually searching me out. Like I have a few customers that I've met at like different markets in State College, and then I'll see them again at the next market and they'll buy something from me there. So it's just been interesting to see that people actually value like what I'm making, and I don't need to undervalue it.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. I think that that is a common theme that I've heard in talking with business owners, especially early business owners, that the mistakes that they often make in the beginning are they're afraid to price their products or their services at what their actually value, or like their actual value is, because they're afraid that if I price too high, then, or what I think maybe is too high, um no one will want to buy it. But in reality, a lot of the times, like you've shared, people will be more than willing to, because you just have to find the right people, right? Like you have to find your market and who's willing to spend the money, because there's always going to be someone that's going to do it. It's just you have to find them. And I think that's really cool that you've kind of found a way to do it outside of Etsy. And tell me a little bit about your experience at those markets. What has been your experience at those public markets versus Etsy or even online, even Instagram? And then just like what's been your favorite part of them?
Yeah. I think honestly, I think my favorite part about them is honestly the connection, which is kind of funny because I don't actually love speaking to strangers. It's not my favorite activity, but I think it's definitely exciting when I get to hear like the like customers like thought process behind like wanting to buy something, because often when I connect with people at markets, I sometimes I just like sell them the item and they leave and they go on their way, but other times they'll like tell me the story behind like why they want it or like what they're specifically looking for. And so it's been kind of cool to connect with them at that level. Whereas like with Etsy, people are less likely to message in and like talk to you about your products unless they're looking for something like custom, which like I do get plenty of custom orders on Etsy and I actually really enjoy those. But since it is just something that they can do at a click of a button, there isn't that like connection made. And so it's just like, oh, I'm making this and I ship it off and I'll never see or talk to that person again. Um but I don't know. Like this is an example from like a local market, but from an order, like a custom order that I got on Etsy. So I do make like custom lookalike dolls, and I get occasionally local orders for those, but I also get a lot of them from Etsy. And it's been really neat because I'll have people reach out to me and like tell me like little tidbits about their life. Um, and like it makes making the items for them a lot more meaningful. For example, there's this man that wanted to order a custom doll from me that was a look-alike of his wife who had passed away about a year before, and he had wanted to order a look-alike doll of her for his granddaughter to have, so that she would be able to have that like connection to her. And I don't know, it's just super cool being able to work with him and like design the little outfit for the doll. It's like make sure like um make sure it looks just like his wife, and like I don't know, like and like I have people like send me pictures so I can get like the doll looking as close as possible to the person they want to base model it off of. And so that was really cool. And then about a year and a half later, he reached out to me again wanting the exact same doll for a new grandchild. And so I just thought that was really neat because I'm like, oh, like this is something meaningful for him that he's willing to like spend the money on, and it's a meaningful experience for his granddaughters because they get this special doll that looks just like their grandmother who they maybe didn't get the chance to meet. So I just thought that was really cool. And that's something I really enjoy about that like connection. Um, and then like the same thing happens at local markets. When I meet people at local markets, I tend to get a lot more like custom orders like that. And they'll like be like, oh, I've been looking for like a shirt that specifically like looks like a certain way. Or I met, one lady who wanted to use the like her old baby onesies to make a sweatshirt for her I think it was her mother-in-law. And so like we connected at the market, and then I met up with her again and like got the onesies from her. And I don't know, it's just cool being able to make something that's unique and special for somebody that'll be meaningful for them in the future.
Yeah. Wow. Those are powerful, I guess, interactions that you can have that I guess you've been allowed to have because of those personal interactions and where you get to actually meet the people and connect with them. I think that's really cool and a special thing that isn't necessarily available when it's just an order from online and just kind of you're not really associated with them like you were saying. I think that's really cool. Um, and to kind of, I guess, to go along with that, obviously, being a small business owner is not the most stress-free thing that you can do with your life. And there's a lot of things that come with that. Um, what what does it look like, or I guess how do you stay motivated when there is maybe a lull or a slow period or a disappointing day even where you've spent a lot of time on something and it doesn't end up working out, or you're just not able to, I don't know, you're not able to feel as motivated. What do you do to kind of keep yourself motivated and have high spirits?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely lulls. I don't know, something that's very common, especially like with among like business owners, it's like you kind of like you see a really big busy season in the fall slash winter when you're like getting people are starting to buy presents for like Christmas and stuff. And then after that, everything kind of just slows down and you maybe get like a couple orders a month and there's like a few like trickles after like the holiday season. And things just get really, really slow. And I don't know, at first it was pretty discouraging, especially because it was like, oh, like I'm finally making income and I can like actually like help support like our family financially in some ways. But then like all of a sudden it's very different than it was a couple months ago. Um, but I actually have found that with time I don't mind those lulls as much because during the busy season, I am really busy and it gets really stressful and I usually feel pretty overwhelmed. And you can ask my husband, I turn into a little bit of a monster during busy season. So he's grateful for when I'm done and I'm also grateful for that little break. And actually it's been really nice because I think my slowest months are usually during summer. And so it works out perfectly because that's the time when my kids are out of school, and so then I can spend more time with them and focus more on them. But, it's also nice because it gives me a little bit more leeway um, to experiment and make new items for my shop and see maybe change things that I loved, but maybe, like, felt like they needed to be updated. Um, so I don't know, it's just really an opportunity for me to just kind of try out new things. Um, I mean, yeah, like I said, I started off making like little rattles and like kid focused things and
Before we continue with the show, I just wanted to come on here and show my appreciation for all of you that click on these episodes and listen to them every single week. The Spotify statistics show that over 70% of you guys who listen to these podcasts are not subscribed. And the number one way that you can support the podcast is by pressing that subscribe button. It costs you no money at all, and it takes less than 2 seconds. And it is one of the best ways that we can grow and boost this show so that we can have bigger and bigger guests on and learn more and more. Thank you very much. And let's get right back to the episode.
the transition from that to like more like sweatshirts and t-shirts and like more like patchwork type sewn items, definitely happened during a lull in my busy season. So I don't know. It gets discouraging, but also it's good in a way. And like now that I do like more market events than I did in the past, I started doing them about 2 years ago. Sometimes I do get really discouraged when I end up at an event and it's really slow. Like I had one a couple of months ago that I made like $75, which like covers the fee and then for like the actual market event, and then it's like maybe covering the cost of supplies that I bought to make in preparation. So it was pretty lame, but also I I felt a little disappointed, but also it was nice like looking back and being like, actually it's great because that just means I get more of a break and I don't have to stress for my next event by making a bunch more stuff. So it's like it's perfect. I get a little bit of time off and I'm not as stressed trying to get everything done. So I don't know. That's kind of how I've started looking at the moments where it's slow is like, oh, perfect. It's a little break. It gives me more time to get what I need to done. Um, and since like it's definitely not, it's more of like a hobby than maybe a source of income at this point. It's definitely like it's okay because I'm not as stressed about trying to meet like a certain quota. But I would love for it to become something bigger eventually. But right now it is what it is, and it's okay for it to be slow sometimes because it just means I get to spend more time with my kids and maybe take a break during the summer.
Yeah, on that piece with balance between being a mother and also like doing this as a hobby, but also it's a source of income to some extent. What's something about balancing both being a mother and also balancing running this creative business that people might not expect? And how does that make you value your time differently?
Yeah. Um, I mean, honestly, I'm probably not the best person at balancing the two. I try to get better at it, but it is hard because there's definitely times where I feel the pressure to um get a lot of sewing done. And also I just enjoy doing it. I like sewing. I do it in my free time. I can like listen to an audiobook I do it, and I love listening to audiobooks, so it just gives me something to do with my hands while I'm listening. Um, and so it is hard sometimes balancing that between with like being a mom and making sure like my kids' needs are met. Um, but I don't know. It's kind of funny because I was I usually actually take summer break off just because my kids are home and I've tried to run a business during the summer in the past, and it's just like I don't have enough time to like focus on them and also like stay sane and also focus on my business at the same time without taking Nick away from the work that he needs to get done as well. So, but I made the dumb mistake again this summer of trying to do my business again. So I signed up for a bunch of markets that I wanted to do. Despite knowing I probably wouldn't be like mentally capable of doing it. And I actually ended up dropping out of a few because I was just feeling so overwhelmed. And my son Lincoln, he just like turned to me one day and he's like, Mom, just don't pay that much attention to me right now. You're always busy sewing. And I was like, oh, I need to readjust my priorities because I'm like, I never want my kids to feel like they're second to my business because I don't know, like as much as I love it and I love being able to get income from it and also doing it as a hobby, I I love my children more and I want them to know that I love them and care about them and will give them the time that they need. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious from my Instagram, but I have been taking a total break for the past like month because I just needed that little reset, and things are still crazy, but in different facets of my life. So it's been good being able to find a way to balance and give my kids a little bit more attention than what they were getting at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah, I love that. I think as maybe abrupt of a wake up call that is, it's a good reminder that life does need balance at some stages of life, and it's hard for anyone, no matter what stage of life you're at. It's hard to achieve that balance between our desires to create and our desires to do things we care about, and then also pay attention to every other thing that we have. I feel like we have so many things that are pulling our attention every which way, and being able to effectively use our time to try and allocate and pay attention to everything in our life is tough. Um, and I can't even imagine doing that as a parent. So I'm struggling with it as just being married. So um, I guess one of my final questions for you before I get to like the final question I ask before I ask everyone, um, my second to last question for you is, in your experience, You've been doing this for about, I think, 6 years now, if I remember correctly. Um, in your opinion, is passion something that you find, or is that something that you more build?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. I think I don't know, like I mentioned, I when I first started, like I definitely um wanted to I don't know, I honestly like I really started the business just as another source of income and also just like something to get me to do. And then along the way, like as I built my business and it like grew and I like transitioned to stuff I'm a lot more passionate about um doing with it. I don't know. It's changed for me from being like maybe something like I don't know, like I feel like it definitely started off as something that I built and then I just like eventually it grew into something I was really passionate about and like I love sewing. It's like something I think about all the time now. But I don't know. I feel like it's definitely something like I've built a passion for over time. But also like it's something I kind of just found that I like. It was built off of something that I um didn't necessarily love, but it kind of put me in the right path um to like find it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Kind of a path of exploration to where you started out with something that maybe wasn't completely 100% what you wanted, but has led you to now where you've found something adjacent to that where you now enjoy it way, way more than what you were previously doing. If kind of the way I see what you just said.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I was just saying no, it's true. It's just I don't know, it's like I like got on a path, I built it up and then it like I kind of just found what I liked and I mean it's something that's continually developing and like growing and like I don't know, as my interests change, um like my what I sell changes and just like my business, but it's still like kind of like built upon the same foundation, like just like things I'm passionate about.
I love that. I think that's great. And my last and final question for you is kind of is one that I ask to every guest that comes on, but it's a little more tailored towards a specific audience. In your case, is if you could give advice to another young mom or just someone who is sitting on a dream or something that they want to do, either turning that into a business or even just starting a hobby, what would your advice be to that individual?
Honestly, it's to just to try it out. You're gonna start. I mean, everybody starts from not having experience. Like you've got to start from somewhere, and so there's no reason to not try it out and try to develop it. I get people, especially at markets, who come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I wish I knew how to sew," or "I just like this is so cool that you do this and you can make all these items yourself." Um, and every time I'm like, "Just try it out." It ends up it's actually a lot of the stuff I make is easier than you think it is, and also like I don't know. I started out from making like little teeny tiny like felt things that looked like animals. They weren't even that good, but I practiced and I put a lot of time into it and it got me and it became something I was passionate about and I don't know, like what I make now is a lot more impressive than what I made at the beginning. So it's it's worth a try. There's I mean, maybe you lose out on like a few dollars or like some craft supplies, but if you don't try it out, then you're never gonna learn and you're just gonna stay the same and not grow.
I love that. I think that's a common sentiment I've heard amongst all of the people that I've talked to. That just if you just give it a try and just try and do something new, that you'll eventually figure out that it just takes time and consistency. And consistency, I think, is one of the most important things that someone can do, is staying consistent as they try to do something new. So, Sarah, I thank you so much. I've appreciated talking to you. I've loved hearing the stories that you've shared and the insights that you have on your experience. And I'm sure that plenty of people will learn from your experience as well. So I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for coming on, and I really appreciate you. This has been episode 11 of the Passion Lab. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening.